regional election, and the People's Progressive Party has won that election overwhelmingly, and the People's National Congress has been moved back by its own support base to the lesser of the opposition positions, and Azadine Mohammed is set to be the new opposition leader, sometime in December or January, when Parliament is set to recommence. The concerns today of the Opposition Leader Select's office is those of the people, and those that are identified to the Opposition Leader Select office by the people. One of the grave concerns that we have is the inability, or one of the issues that we look with grave concern is the inability for the Vice President to come forward and hold his press conference for the third week in a row. We are aware that the Vice President is not ill in any way, and has played an active role in politics in this country rigorously for the past 10 years. The press conference that the Vice President holds on a weekly basis allows journalists and Guyanese citizenry have some bit of insight as to what the government is doing. So when the Vice President does not come forward, and he has issued posts on his Facebook page apologizing for not holding those press conferences, but it is of great concern to the Opposition Leader Select's office, because the Vice President press conferences are one of the times when the citizenry have the opportunity as it relates to insight into the government's doing, and the media has the opportunity to ask questions about very important projects like the oil and gas project that is taking quite a bit of the people's resources. Quite a bit is being taken from the coffers, and it might not be in advance, but it is so that at some point in time the people have to pay. Everything has a cost. We would want to know what is going on, what is the progress. The government has chosen ministers. The President, Prime Minister, Vice President have all been reappointed, and reappointed we say because they still hold the same portfolios that they have had in the last government's 5 years tenure. The September the 1st election has seen them coming and winning overwhelmingly the support of the people. Now the people want to know about their business concerns. How are they going to be affected? What the new government plans? Although the President has held a press conference, it was limited as to what came out of that. The Vice President press conferences on a weekly basis. We down at the Opposition Leader Select office are asking, when will the Vice President be back? And we're hoping the Vice President will be back very soon than later to be able to answer the important questions as it relates to government's work, and the Vice President being the General Secretary of the People's Progressive Party also helps us to understand the party's direction, what is the change in the party's ideology, and how the party see itself taking Guyana forward through being the foundation for the present government. One of the other concerns that we have at the Opposition Leader Select's office is the President has gone to the UN and has made an impactful address that is very representative of what Guyanese think, and I think it has been very interesting and could consider to be a very positive address. But the concerns that most Guyanese citizens have as of today is, how does the president plan to deal and the government plan to deal with the opposition leader Azzaddin Mohammed? We at the Opposition Leader Select's office is fully well aware that Azzaddin Mohammed and his father, Nazar Mohammed, has had some bit of relations with the government, has had unfortunate, deliberate, and cohesive relations with the Guyana Police Force, the Guyana Revenue Authority. We at the Opposition Leader Select Office have started an investigation to have a better understanding as to how was Azzaddin Mohammed and Nazar Mohammed been able to remove or smuggle 10,000 kilograms of gold through official channels. You see, the concern, the real concern, and it might not have been brought to the attention of the citizenry by myself, it might have been an oversight, is the role that government-affiliated agencies, as you might have known, Azzaddin Mohammed and Nazar Mohammed was not sanctioned alone. A permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs, a government-appointed official, was also sanctioned. The Opposition Leaders Select Office is looking for answers on behalf of the citizenry as it relates to what would have caused a government official also to be sanctioned. What evidence does the United States government have, and has that evidence been passed on to this administration? Those are some of the concerns that the citizenry have, and we at the Opposition Leaders Select Office are looking to have addressed. How many government officials, past and if possible present, would have been tainted by their association with the Mohammeds and the Mohammeds enterprise, whichever way, whether if it is signing off documents for them to be able to have had the opportunity to smuggle more than 10,000 kilograms of gold from Guyana. Can this administration give the citizenry an update on that? We are very much appreciative, I must say. Our intention is not to gain power, but to see that the administration holds itself at a high standard, and accountability and transparency are one of the hallmarks of this new administration. There is no single body, there is no single individual or collective body in Guyana that doesn't have a background that is tainted. Look at the Guyana Human Rights Organization, Transparency International, Red Thread, all associations that are affiliated, have known to be affiliated over the years, constitutional bodies. The Guyana Human Rights Organization is a constitutional body. Recently came and was asking for the resignation of another constitutional body that oversees the oil wealth. Now, this organization has nobody knows what purpose this organization serves. because it doesn't serve the best interests of human rights of Guyanese citizens. It served to bring weight to the lesser of the opposition, or it served to bring weight to the lesser of the opposition over the years, only rearing its head once in a while. It's been headed by one person for many, many of years. It has no democratic process within it. Transparency International Guyana also is brought into question as a result of statements and utterances they make from time to time, given these are bodies that are supposed to hold government accountable. The Opposition Leader Select Office is very worried as to how we stand in Guyana and where are we. If bodies that are supposed to hold government accountable have now become, and over the years have been, very questionable, they're supposed to have an unbiased approach. What are their interests and how have they been able to gain? Do they still have momentum? Have they been able to impact government? Have their statements been able to impact government in any meaningful way to Guyanese citizens? Or are they just political tools that lay dormant until needed to put out statements to have the international community focused on Guyana? The time for bobbing and weaving and the deceiving of the citizenry has gone. Guyana is the fastest growing country in our region. One, if not the fastest growing economy in the world. And all eyes are on Guyana. The Opposition Leaders Select Office will continue to ask questions and answer questions as it relates to government's operations, with the intention of holding government accountable, since there is no one else. The intended individuals who are to represent the people in opposition in Parliament are a worrying list of people. Hence the position of Opposition Leader Select. And I can tell you here today, it is a position that can't be questioned, since Mikhail Rodriguez has been an activist for almost 10 years now, and no one could question whether I am up to it or willing to hold anybody accountable. I'll take some comments. I'll take some comments. I'll take some calls and answer questions of great concern to the citizenry. So you could also WhatsApp, message me on WhatsApp, or call in on WhatsApp and have your concerns addressed. Opposition Leader Select Guyanese Critic. No, Mikhail Rodriguez. The Guyanese Critic is a whole another portfolio where people have, and there's a bit of entertainment and satire and everything else in it. The Opposition Leader Select Office is one of a more serious nature and approach. What do you think of David Hines in Parliament? I I am worried. Honestly, I have interacted with David Hines over the years, and I know he is adamant. I can't say genuine in his nature. He's adamant about his beliefs. It so happens those beliefs have a racial connotation to them. So, as it relates to David Hines becoming a member of parliament, not as David Hines supporting the lesser of the opposition, as the lesser of the opposition creating an impact that would see the government being respectful. That is my worry. My concern is if the present makeup of lesser opposition and opposition nominees or placement for MPs, if that makeup would be satisfactory and adequate to really hold the government accountable. That is my worry and concern. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Opposition Leader Select. Hello, you raised this concern last week, and I'm bringing it back again. And I noticed it's happening at Denhamsdale Police Station. I want to know, and if you can find out, what purpose they serve. Every afternoon, they're on the road. All of the officers then have on the SWAT uniform. So their name and badge number are hidden. None of them don't have on white sleeve. And they're still stopping and asking person for documents. And yet you don't hear anything. What's going on? Because I got pulled over the other day. Right? They said dangerous driving. I don't know what was the dangerous driving. I was told I have to pay $40,000 bail. I didn't realize that was the bail fee. They said if I don't have the money to pay, if I don't have the money to pay, they will lock me up. Then they asked for a bribe. I know it was wrong on my part, so I just give them $10,000 to go because I don't have time to, because it was late in the afternoon. But this is what I know. Because one time I saw a police officer right in front of Denhamsdale collect a bribe from the busman and the money drop on the ground.
It is unfortunate. It's unfortunate that at the time you had the opportunity to, you did not take a stance.
Yes.
But again, I'm hoping the Guyana Police Force is listening, and the members at the Denhamsdale Police Station are listening and do something about this concern raised by this citizen.
And the thing is not one of them. It's about 8 to 10 of them surround you, and it's like you're feeling intimidated. You don't have a choice. That's a real. When I come, when I realize the strategy which they're using. That's what. When I talk to someone else, they say the same thing happened to them at Lenora Police Station. They had to pay $7,000 bail, and when they go to the court day, the court is not in session. They say they will get them back to court, and to this date, none new court date was set, and that person can't get back their bail money.
I'm hoping you, let me tell you, so the opposition select, as you guys would have known, it is not something that is normal, but it could happen because of who I am as an individual and how I've proven myself over the years. I want to beseech you, I want to tell you, don't make the same mistake if you want. You can't be doing the same thing to get a different result. I can tell you, if you had taken a stand and you had exposed them, that would not have happened again. It would have taken some time and effort out of your life, but nonetheless, you would have made an impactful change in your country. So please try to be a good citizen, because you're asking to have a good government. but not willing to be a good citizen. So
Yes.
next time, try to be a better citizen and ensure that we could do things, even if it's just
Yes.
one step in the right direction to eradicate corruption in the Guyana Police Force, right?
The other thing too, which will bring me to the ND season. About 2 or 3 years ago, the government gave every NDC $4 million to do cleanup campaign. I don't remember which year. But was there ever an audit as to how this money was spent by the NDCs then? And
Well-
who is responsible to audit each NDC, not the region, the NDC itself?
Well, the Auditor General's office operates outside of the remits of the government, independently of the government. And they continually do audits across the country, right? That is what they do. What I can tell you, if you said NDC, NDC's neighborhood democratic councils that covering a whole community. Let me put
Yes.
the context of $4 million. Let me put $4 million in the hands of government into context for you. So recently, the government gave out contracts to clean up Georgetown, the city, and different communities. And they gave contracts of somewhere close to $3 million to clean the drains in one block. So if you put
Yes.
$4 million into context for a whole community, you understand
Yes.
that wouldn't have
Yeah,
done
yeah.
much, because if the government is building a toilet for,
Yes.
like we could build, the citizenry could build a house for $10 million. The government builds a
yeah.
toilet for that price. This is some of the things that are raised that the opposition leaders select office, would like government to explain and for the people to get their money's worth.
Yes.
Right? So I hope that
Alright.
answers your question adequately.
All right, thanks.
Most welcome. So we have to be willing to make changes ourselves. We, the citizenry, it starts to start with us. Like there's never been before an opposition leader select. But there's never been before a Demerara Harbor Bridge. Only yesterday I was talking to Mandy Roy, a journalist from the UK, and she was explaining to me when I told her about the Harbor Bridge, when she was last in Guyana only 3 years ago, or just over 3 years ago, she didn't know that there was a Demerara Harbor Bridge that was to be built. It is completed now. And in the UK, they have been waiting 10 years with billions of dollars being spent to have a train set up in certain way and fashion. That has not been done yet. So governments across the world, if not held accountable, no matter who they are, go array. But it is important, of utmost importance, the citizens have to hold themselves accountable to. If you are to see, and that is why it makes the dynamic of parliament in Guyana a worrying one. Because imagine opposition leader Azadeen Mohammed in parliament trying to hold the government accountable, when he and some sections of that said government would have been responsible for fleecing the people of no less than $50 million US. That is of grave concern. That is worrying. So in the intention or in the hope of having a better country, we all have to hold ourselves accountable. Like me here presenting myself to you. Mikhail Rodriguez is who I am and who I have been all of my life. The Guyanese Critic was a persona created to better suit bring the news, expose and uncover different things for Guyanese people. It has served and continue to serve its purpose well. But if I'm to be taken seriously as opposition leader select and represent my office adequately, I would have to act in a certain manner and carry myself a certain way to be taken seriously. Because if I were to present myself as Guyanese critic, they say, oh, he goes off and all these kind of things. Hence, the change in mannerisms and attitude. I didn't have to learn this. This Michael Rodriguez is who I am. My mannerisms and everything else as Guyanese critic is also who I am. But it's not fitting for this position. As opposition leader select, I will be representing pastors, priests, might be representing ministers of government. I'm a better representative of the opposition than the opposition themselves. Because you could ask one, or you could go to many of these people who will be sitting as members of parliament and realize they are holders of degrees. Some are holders of a PhD or doctors. But what they can't say is they hold in a large amount the respect of the people. No one individual, even Azzuddin Mohammed with all the money afforded him, has attained and amassed a following such as I have. Because from day one, my actions as the Guyanese critic, as Michael Rodriguez, as an activist, as a journalist, have been clear. I've always said and done and been true to what I do on behalf of the people. Now, holding office as opposition leader select has taken or has caused me to take a more serious approach. Because if I am to be here to represent doctors and lawyers and future leaders of our country, how should I present myself? Candid, with a certain level of honesty, but nonetheless with the utmost of integrity and professionalism. Some might not have known that I possess those qualities. But yes, I do. And it didn't take much practice. It just took my deciding that I will take this path, and it took some coaxing by a number of people making requests. I want to thank you, the Guyanese citizenry, for affording me the opportunity to serve you. This is an office of nowhere, but an office of necessity that has been forged or born from the need of somebody that the people can relate to, somebody that the people can understand, somebody that the people can trust. Because who can you trust? As much as you voted for them, you look at the composition of members of parliament in the elected opposition. A man who has stole, pillaged, refused to pay taxes, openly lead the uneducated, pay people to do crazy things. I here as opposition leader select, I'm no saint. But there's no evidence other than rhetoric that I have done anything to steal from the taxpayers of this country. And that is a matter of fact. Because I've never participated in such an act. And the government of this country cannot come and dispute that. Even if their favor for me would have changed. Because I personally have never participated in such an act with or without the government of this country. Never participated in such an act. And if a day comes that there's a falling out with myself and the government, like similar in nature to that of Azzedine Mohammed and the government could never come and say, I do this and I do that. Because as a God exists, nothing like that has ever happened. The opposition, lesser opposition, in an attempt to smear my name, used the fact that one of the jobs I would have had, a pump station contract, they use that to suggest I participated in cahoots with the government in some kind of nefarious activity. No such thing transpired, and there's no evidence. In propagating this lie, the lesser opposition, the PNC, were incapable or unwilling or unable to be able to relay their position to their people. Hence, they lost miserably. This is a matter of fact. Today, the PNC stands or sits a lesser party than they have ever been over their entire life. The Opposition Leaders Select Office is looking seriously at local government elections with the intention of forming some form of a body, political or otherwise, to contest local government elections and bring genuine change. We are willing to work our way up from the bottom to prove to the people our capabilities. I can tell you the Opposition Leaders Select Office will not be making any promises that we can't keep. On a serious note, we are looking and assessing if the Opposition Leaders Select Office was to contest local government elections and be elected by the people, how impactful can we be? We are cognizant that the great PPP, the government themselves, have councillors within the Mayor and City Council of Georgetown that are rendered incapable of doing anything. They're rendered helpless because the lesser of the opposition have the upper position in the Mayor and City Council and have not done anything, have not shown the ability or the willingness to be transparent, have not shown any intention of curbing their corrupt ways. And if I'm saying it, the government have not been able to make headway, I don't see how we will impact. If contesting the elections and got seats or councillors within the Mayor and City Council, the City Councils of Georgetown, how do we operate? How do we become impactful? What we will be lobbying, therefore, given the circumstance, or supporting as much as it's concerning because it's not one of the utmost democratic nature. We will be supporting, we at the Opposition Leader Select Office will be supporting the president call or the president charge to take over and make Georgetown green again. Very important. The president has, and I from my experience with President Irfaan Ali, although we sit at two different positions presently, I wouldn't consider President Ali's utterances to be promises. President Ali has delivered on all the promises made when he was vying for office in 2020. So one cannot label President Ali's utterances any longer as promises, but as commitments that President Ali is known to keep. Nonetheless, we have to have a watchful eye to make sure President Ali continues on the straight and narrow path that will serve Guyanese well. Let me see if there are any more questions. If not, any more questions or calls, we will bring this press conference to an end. Critic, what do you think about the situation with Amanza, Walton, and VPAC and Francis Bailey? What is the effects of a sanctioned individual as opposition leader in Parliament in Guyana? Two solid questions. The effects of, I will say, as opposition leader select, I can say the evidence shows Amanza Walton came or has been birthed out of the PNC. The PNC over the years have continually transformed or tried to reinvent themselves. Those were deliberate attempts to deceive the people. The PNC, through its latest iteration of transformation, APNU, has suggested that they are part of a coalition of parties. Where are the parties? Who votes for the WPA? It is a delusion or an illusion created to create a delusionary effect on its supporters. That something is going on of importance between multiple parties that has created and is now the APNU. It is just the PNC. It is just the PNC. Nothing has ever changed with the no lesser opposition. One must understand that. Now, Amanza Walton came out of the PNC. And the way she carries herself, you would understand that she feels she is above the others. And to have a successful political party and successful partnerships, one has to understand what partnership means. And before this coalition was formed, one has to remember what should have been stated by Amanza and partners is what their genuine interests were. And you continue to see all parties except the government. The government is there and they've been able to prove themselves. If you look at political parties that have contested the last election, you will realize they all had agendas. They all had agendas. They all had personal interests. When Amanza left the PNC, Amanza would have served the PNC well. She left the PNC. Who do you think voted for her? Amanza doesn't have a constituency. She has garnered the respect of PNC supporters and voters. She took away from the PNC. Now, given that Amanza did not have a face before she joined the PNC, her character and political recognition was given to her by the PNC. She wasn't a part of a movement and a stand-up for women person, and then she joined the PNC. She took something to the PNC. She took something from the PNC. So you would have problems with Amanza and her partners because of the fact that she feels entitled to what she gets or what she has. The fight will be how they will split the seat. And as much as you're seeing a fight between VPAC and Amanza's party and Francis Bailey is to some extent an unstable person. If you look at his utterances, if you look at how he presents himself, you realize he is to some extent unstable. Very talented. But whatever substance Francis Bailey abuses has a negative effect on his mental being and stability. So when you look at an Amanza, one has to question what the intention was. And the intention was for power, for attention. If you look at how she purports herself, how she speaks, every time presented with a question by her, every time she does the same thing. She doesn't know anything else. She's not creative. She can't think on her feet. If she's presented with a heart, she says, oh, you're a journalist, go and ask questions and all that thing. Not very creative. Right? Simple. So my take on that is the same reason I am here today as opposition leader select. Because Amanza's party actually slipped into parliament with what you would consider in colloquial terms or layman terms, the surwa, like if left surwa left on the curry or the rice. When you boil the rice, the little mar left. So you figure out, let's use it for something. It takes 6,000 odd votes to get a seat in the last parliament. And the VPAC Amanza coalition did not get 5,000 votes. They actually got a seat by default. Because you can't throw away any votes. They actually got a seat by default. So, my take is the fact that Amanza feels entitled. Amanza is not someone who genuinely cares about people. She feels that she's above others who she would be a part of, that would be a part of their small coalition. So there's going to be infighting. The next infighting would be between herself and someone who I list as a false prophet from Linden. That fight is loading, yet to be seen. The next question is, what is the effects of sanctioned individual as opposition leader in parliament? I think we should not make that one of grave concern. The real concern is how willing the breakdown of concerns, if I may, is how willing will the Americans be to be our friends when they continually warn the Guyanese citizen, the Guyanese government, of the nature of this individual, Azzedine Mohammed, and we don't take them seriously. Because if you do not know the importance of the American-Guyanese relation and the geopolitical situation we have found ourselves in Guyana, Guyana doesn't have an adequate military background to represent ourselves against so I have just appoint Marvin Hillard as a result of my post, just to inform you, critic the Minister of Natural Resources and his reach out, and both parties would be thank you. This matter respect to him one order. Thank you. So this is in relation to the post I made recently on my page. I can tell you that young man has been making videos for quite some time and complaining about harassment by larger miners. And now I'm seeing he's making a post that the minister has reached out to him. Thankful to the government for being so responsive. Thankful to the government. Nonetheless, we will continue to hold them accountable. Back to the matter at hand and the question I was answering in relation to how does Azzedine Mohammed going to Parliament affect Guyanese? So, American foreign policy is one that is guided by a number of moving factors, whether Guyanese home and abroad would want to accept or deny. Only this past week, the president, Marvis, you've been talking to me for years about this thing, buddy. I see a plight, I see a pain. Unfortunately, I have not done enough to support you, but I'm glad that I saw that video and I made it public, and now you're getting the much needed help you deserve. And I apologize for not doing more earlier. I too have to sometimes accept responsibility for not doing, what I could have earlier. You're most welcome, Marvis. Now, what Guyanese have to realize is, and have not realized, and I don't think politicians have been very forthcoming and honest with Guyanese. Because in the intention to get votes, people tell you things that you want to hear. Now, America and American policies, like the interest of driving or educating the world and instilling democracy across the world, is an American interest. It is not a good and great thing. It is an American interest. The need to have the US dollar as the currency of the world is a US interest. It is not for the good and right of the world. It is a US interest. And I think politicians have not educated, in the world over, have not educated people enough. America has an interest in Guyana. America has an interest in Guyana's stability. What those interests are not wide and varying. It is now simple. a natural resource that we are wealthy in light of the fact they had that interest, anybody could have had that interest. It so happens that the American has that interest. The Americans. The United States of America, nonetheless. We have an interest. We all have interest. The government and the people of Guyana have an interest in having that resource nurtured in a manner that could benefit the Guyanese citizenry. Well, there is not Gillian Lindeen. It is not self-proclamation. I, as Mikhail Rodriguez, on social media platforms, which you could take seriously because all of my lawsuits have come from what I've uttered on social media. I, as Mikhail Rodriguez, has the largest constituency of any kind and following as a personal individual in this country. Mikhail Rodriguez. So opposition leaders selected by the people, not elected. They didn't vote for me. By extent, because being one, like you don't have, if any single minister were to come outside of the PPP, nobody would know them or care about them. It is a collective body that makes individuals in the PPP who they are. You look at the people who have made up now the Win Party and you will realize that they're of no significance independently. Not one single one of them are of any significance compared to me. You look at the PNC, People's National Congress. Out there in the world of reality, outside of the metaverse, you can't pit even a David Hines against me. As an intellectual, he would be able to have better discussions than me on topics. But as it relates to piquing Guyanese interest in representation of them, any day, I could have more people in my support than David Hines would have. I have more people in my support than Aubrey Norton has been able to garner. That is why the PNC has now become the lesser. I am the one single individual that has continuously exposed the PNC for who they are and what they've done and their transgressions. Hence where they are as the lesser of the opposition today. And that cannot be disputed. So when one asks, how did I become opposition leader select? It is clear as day. Select is the operative word here that one has to delve into to have an understanding as it relates to my background and how I have become. So we're staying on the agenda and the question asked in relation to the interest and what's going on and how Azadine Mohammed heading to Parliament affects Guyanese in general, or will affect us in general. One has to wait and see if there will be any adverse effects of Azadine Mohammed heading to Parliament. That is yet to be seen. What I can tell you is that Guyana cannot make enemies of the United States of America. Since the only reason at this time we have peace in Guyana and have not been invaded by the Venezuelans as yet, as much as they have now invaded or going soon to invade our parliament as a result of their puppet Azadine Mohammed being elected by Guyanese people. If it weren't for the Americans, we would be at the mercy of Tiberius. We do not have an adequate military. It is our supportive relations with America and other neighboring countries that has been able to keep the Maduro administration at bay. Let me go on to any other questions being posed. A simple Google search tells us that the sanctioned person in Parliament as an opposition leader has lots of serious effects. Does Guyana have lawyers qualified to advise on this? Yes. We have the Attorney General, brother. Any update on Junior Bash and Soku or the police? At this time, the Opposition Leaders Select Office has no updates on Junior Bash and the spurious claims that he has made and the president about the president and the president's mother. I'm hoping to see something done by, again, Soku. Soku's quiet on the Junior Bash situation. Junior Bash has come and publicly claimed his role in gold smuggling, publicly claimed his association with Venezuelan generals publicly. It is worrying. Has Junior Bash been called in by Soku and questioned as yet? This is how we know Soku has been compromised, and the question continues to be asked whether Soku is the organized crime investigative body or the leading organized crime body itself in Guyana. I've always made example of the fact that Soku once took Dr. Roger Luncheon in a wheelchair to have him, dragged him as a matter of fact, from the opposition leader at the time office to Soku headquarters to have him investigated and answer questions. Given the video that was posted by Junior Bash, can we safely say, can Soku say, what moves have they taken in relation to the video posted by Junior Bash? As of today's date, the Opposition Leaders Select Office has no understanding or no bit of background. I know I have received a notice from lawyers for Soku as it relates to things you are now peddling propaganda at the highest forum. Why are you allowed? What is this? Albert, it seems you are ill-informed, and as such you will be banned and blocked from our forum. So guys, I think we've come to the end of this press conference. I want to thank you for your continued support, and you can always send issues and concerns you would like to have raised, presented to the government, and you could always expect the Opposition Leaders Select Office to hold the government accountable, since there is no adequately qualified, and when I say qualified, is not in the level of academics, but people who are of such a standing that could hold the government accountable for perceived corrupt practices in Parliament. There's nobody in Parliament, no opposition. The lesser of the opposition, the PNC, on to today's date, have a number of their members before the court for their attempts to rig the last election. Hence, their incapability of being a voice, at least a voice that carries weight. The PNC have been incapable over 5 years of accepting responsibility for their transgressions and apologizing to their people. And their people have hence expressed dissatisfaction with them, sending them at the September the 1st election into a tailspin that saw them becoming the lesser of the opposition, placing the PNC at a position they've never been in over 60 years. The other half, who has now become the opposition headed by Azzaddin Mohammed, is a sanctioned individual and obviously incapable of doing a simple press conference. Off the bat, having an understanding of what the people concerns are and asking or answering questions, also is incapable of taking the government head on because of his past participation in corruption and lacking of understanding of how governance works and lacking a background as it relates to adequately represent the people in Parliament. So we're here with the the leader of the opposition select office, trying our utmost to keep Guyana on track as it relates to us progressing and not having a continued denigration of our offices by having corruption and the breakdown of moral standing in our society and high office spread like a cancer in our society. We, the citizenry, through the office of the opposition leader select, have chosen to stand up and not only hold the government accountable, but hold ourselves accountable to see genuine change in Guyana. With that being said, I'll bring this press conference to a close, and once again, thank you for your continued support.